lady. That's how guys lose their jobs, not collecting fares.
I'm sorry. I guess I'm a little excited.
Thank you, lady.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Mrs. Stewart. Would you give me my husband's room number, please? Lieutenant Stewart.
Lieutenant Stewart?
Yes, he's arriving today. I wired for the reservation. Lieutenant and Mrs. Paul Stewart.
You say you wired for a reservation?
Yes, Mrs. Paul Stewart.
I'm afraid there's been a slip-up. Apparently your wire wasn't received.
But I sent it 3 days ago.
Well, I'm sorry, Mrs. Stewart. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do for you.
You mean I can't stay here?
Well, I wish I could help, but we're completely booked up.
But I've got to stay here. This is the only place we can find each other. I thought for 2 years he was dead, and now I don't know if he's been hurt or what.
Please don't be upset, Mrs. Stewart. Perhaps I can arrange something. Has Mr. Walters checked in yet?
No, sir, not until tomorrow.
Fine, then we can give them 816C for the night. But you will have to leave by noon tomorrow.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much.
Not at all. Will you register, please?
Hello, this is Mrs. Stewart. Did my husband come in? No, thank you.
I've been watching you for months, making a fool of yourself.
I don't think so.
Bringing her here.
Elaine was just about to leave.
I didn't interrupt too soon?
Perhaps it's just as well things worked out like this, Margaret. I've decided to ask you for a divorce.
A divorce?
Well?
Why should I divorce you?
Oh, please, Margaret, let's be sensible. Whatever we had for one another is gone. We've been afraid to admit it before, but it's true. Elaine and I... Well, I love her.
You never loved anyone but yourself.
Please, Margaret.
I was good enough for you once, but now you want someone younger.
It's not that way at all. It's just that I can't go on with you any longer.
All right, Richard. You can have your divorce. You're right. We are strangers. But I have some pride, and no one's going to think you cast me off like
Margaret.
that. You want your precious Elaine, and you can have her. But people are going to know the truth. I'll start right in by telling the room clerk you've been entertaining your girlfriend in our apartment. Then I'll call the newspapers. Careful, cautious Richard. Destroying everything he is for the sake of a cheap...
Get away from that
you asked
phone,
for it, and you're
Margaret.
going to get it.
Leave that phone
I'll enjoy
alone,
telling
Margaret.
your friends
Leave
that you
that
and your
phone
little love
alone.
have been up to...
I hate you.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I'm Lieutenant Stewart.
Oh, yes, Lieutenant. We've been expecting you. Your wife's certainly going to be glad to see you, sir. Well, Mr. Blake, this is Lieutenant Stewart. Mr. Blake's our manager.
Lieutenant, you really had us worried. I'm glad you finally got here.
For a while, I wasn't sure we'd make it. The weatherman threw the book at us.
Well, you're in for a real welcome.
816C, boy.
Oh, that's all right. I'd kind of like to surprise her.
Very well, sir.
Thanks. What's the matter? Janet. Janet, it's me. It's Paul. Janet. Hello? Hello, operator. This is Lieutenant Stewart calling. Can you send the house doctor to 816C right away? It's very urgent. Thank you. Well? What is it? What's wrong with her, Doctor?
I'm not sure. I think she's suffering from some sort of shock. I'll be frank with you, Lieutenant. This is a little outside my line.
But there must be something you can do for her.
We ought to call in a nerve specialist, a psychiatrist.
Can you suggest one?
There's a very good man in the hotel, Dr. Cross. If we're lucky, we might find him in. This is Dr. Blair. Will you see if Dr. Cross is in for me? Thanks. Cross has had a lot of experience with this sort of thing. I'm all right for a broken arm or an old-fashioned hangover. But when it comes to the mind, well... hello, Dr. Cross. This is Blair in the hotel. How are you? Say, I've run into something that's right up your alley. One of the guests here's had some sort of shock. No, I don't know what caused it. Oh, would you? Well, that's mighty nice of you. Thanks, Doctor. 816C. He'll be right with us.
She was so alive when I saw her last. I can't quite believe this.
Better snap out of it, Lieutenant. I don't want another patient. Dr. Cross is one of the best men in this part of the country. I'm very happy that he's going to have a look at it.
I don't get it. What could have brought it on?
I wish I could tell you. The mind's a strange instrument. What affects me may not bother you in the slightest. The workings of the mind depend on so many things inside as well as outside. You can't make hard and fast rules.
Well, I suppose it is plausible that she hasn't been feeling well. Worrying about me, not knowing whether I was dead or alive. Then coming here and not finding me.
That'll be Dr. Cross. morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
I appreciate your promptness.
Not at all. The sooner you get to a case of shock, the better.
This is Lieutenant Stewart, Dr. Cross.
How do you do, Lieutenant?
Thanks for coming, Doctor. My wife is in the bedroom. She doesn't know me. She doesn't seem to know anything.
Were you here when it happened?
I just got in a few minutes ago. When I opened the door, she was sitting on the divan. Her eyes were wide open. She was staring at nothing.
Did you notice anything peculiar about her actions when you saw her last?
I've been a prisoner of war for 2 years. I've just come home.
Oh, I see.
She's had a rugged time of it, all right. First thinking I was dead, then hearing from me. On top of all that, my plane was 12 hours late.
Would you say that she was a nervous, imaginative girl?
No, sir. I've known her all my life. We came from the same small town in Michigan. Went to school together. She's just a nice kid. What's wrong with her, Doctor?
She's had a nervous collapse, went into shock. Where did you find her?
In the living room.
In the living room? You said she was sitting on the divan.
Yes, right here.
I see.
What do you think could have caused it, Doctor?
Well, that's difficult to say. You have no idea how long she might have been sitting there.
No. Oh, the clerk did say she phoned down about 1 in the morning.
Between 1 and 8:30.
What difference does that make, Doctor? The important thing is what can you do for her?
It's hard for a doctor to make promises. We can only do our best. Are you living permanently at the hotel?
No, as a matter of fact, we've got to clear out by noon.
Oh, I see. But then I'd better take her to my place. She's going to need someone with her night and day.
Dr. Cross has a private sanatorium just out of town.
I see.
Believe me, Lieutenant, it's best for her.
But there must be a hospital here in San Francisco. I'd like to be near her.
Of course. But I'm at my place every day. It's in the country, and she'll get plenty of fresh air and quiet.
If I were you, Lieutenant, I'd listen to Dr. Cross.
Okay. You men know best. Just get her well again.
I was getting ready to leave when you called. I'll take Mrs. Stewart up with me now. Hello, this is Dr. Cross. Will you get my office, please?
I'm going along with her, Doctor.
I'd rather you waited, Lieutenant, until I've been able to give her a thorough examination. It's quite possible your presence may excite her and do her more harm than good.
It's just that it's been so long since I've seen her.
Why don't you drive up with me tomorrow? Miss Jordan, will you call the hospital and tell Miss Hatfield to have a room ready for a new patient? We'll be there shortly. Yes, that's right. You pick us up at the hotel. Right. You'd better pack a bag for your wife, Lieutenant.
Thanks, Doctor.
I'm from Dr. Cross's office. We were to pick up a patient.
Oh, yes. They're on their way down now.
Thank you. Your car's waiting, Doctor.
Thank you. This is Miss Jordan from my office, Lieutenant Stewart.
How do you do, Lieutenant?
Mrs. Stewart has had a nervous collapse.
What a shame. Don't you worry, Lieutenant. We'll soon have her well again.
You'll call for me in the morning, right?
Yes, I'll pick you up at 11:30. Put her to bed and have Dr. Stevens give her an injection of scopolamine.
Yes, Doctor.
Miss Hatfield,
Good morning, Doctor.
your patient is coming in at the ambulance entrance. You have a room ready?
Yes, I have, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Doctor. How is she?
Quite relaxed, sir. What's your trouble?
Amnesia shock. She's had her injection.
Yes, doctor. She's ready to talk now.
Thank you.
That'll be all.
I'm Dr. Cross, Mrs. Stewart. I'm your friend. I'm here to help you. I want you to think. You're going to remember things now. You went to meet your husband at the Belmont Arms. Do you remember that? You were worried about Paul. He didn't arrive on time. You were too nervous to sleep. Did you walk out on the balcony?
Yes. I walked out on the balcony.
See, you can remember. Now, what did you see from the balcony?
They were quarreling.
You heard them distinctly?
I
Did you hear them distinctly?
He's trying to stop her. He's going to hit her. He's hitting her head. He's killing her.
Who? Who's hurting the woman?
That man. He's her husband. He's killing her.
Well? She knows, Elaine. She remembers. Her room was opposite my apartment. She walked out on the balcony. She heard everything.
Yes? Can you come now, Doctor? They're having trouble with Mr. Edwards again.
Yes. Darling, I didn't think you'd ever get here. I love you.
You've got a headache. I can tell from your eyes.
Yes, it's bursting.
You did it?
Yes. Yes, I did it. It was horrible, Elaine. I had the porter take the trunk down. I told the hotel manager I was joining my wife in Carmel for a few days to ship the trunk to my lodge.
No one knew she was in town last night?
No, she came up the back way. She wanted to surprise us, remember?
You're not sorry. Are you?
I wish I'd called the police. I lost my head. I didn't mean to kill her. There was no premeditation. But now I've concealed her body. I've shipped the trunk to my lodge. And you know as well as I do there's only one answer for that. I shouldn't have listened to you, Elaine.
Think, darling.
What would have happened if you'd called the police? Manslaughter means 20 years. What would that have done to you, to us?
I don't know.
Would you have wanted it that way? Now no one knows. We're safe.
You're forgetting Janet Stewart, aren't you? She knows. What if she talks?
I haven't forgotten her. She can't tell what she's seen as long as she's in this condition, can she?
Shock will wear off in a couple of weeks at the most.
It'll wear off if you let it, Dick.
Elaine, I'm a doctor.
She'll talk only if you let her. You mean too much to me.
It's the only way out, Dick. It's the one and only way out for us.
I don't know, Elaine. I've got to think. Good morning, Mrs. Penny.
Good morning, Doctor.
You're looking very well today.
Thank you, Doctor.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, Miss Hatfield. This is Lieutenant Stewart. Miss Hatfield's our head nurse.
How do you do, Lieutenant?
Is Miss Jordan with Mrs. Stewart?
Yes, she is, Doctor.
Good morning, Lieutenant.
Janet. Darling, it's me. It's Paul. I'm home, dear.
She's worse. Not really. She was restless, and we gave her a sedative. You've got to be patient, Lieutenant. It's going to take time. And you must try to stop thinking of your wife as she was. You see, when you were reported killed, she had a terrible time adjusting herself, but she did. Then when the news came that you were alive and on your way home, it was hard for her subconscious to accept that because the first adjustment had been so difficult. Then, of course, when your plane was late, she thought she'd been tricked, that you'd never sent that wire.
Don't try and let me off easily, Doctor. Give it to me straight. Tell me, can you help her?
That's a very difficult question to answer. Sit down, Lieutenant. The mind is a delicate, fragile thing. It's almost as intangible as faith. And that's what you're going to need. A lot of faith in yourself and in your wife and in me.
Please don't think I haven't faith in you, Doctor, because I have. But yesterday, after you left with Janet, I needed someone to talk to.
Of course.
So I went to the Army hospital and I talked with some of the doctors. I told them Janet was in your care. They said that I couldn't find a better man. But, well, you know how it is. I figured that maybe two minds might be better than one. And I asked if another opinion mightn't help.
Well, that's perfectly understandable. If you want a consultant, by all means, bring one in.
Thanks. They recommended Dr. Franklin Harvey.
Harvey? Well, I studied under him. He's probably the best man in his field.
Oh, that's swell, Doctor. I was a little embarrassed. I didn't want you to think that...
Not at all. I'll phone Dr. Harvey and have him out here.
Good. Well, I might as well go back to town. If it's all right, I'll run out again tomorrow.
For Mrs. Stewart's sake, I'm going to have to ask you to observe our regular visiting days, Sundays and Thursdays. I'll phone Dr. Harvey and try to have him out here Thursday so that you can talk with him then.
Okay, we'll make it Thursday.
Oh, I thought you'd like to know, Lieutenant. She's resting quite easily now.
Thanks. Goodbye, Doctor. Miss Jordan.
Bye.
Stewart. You're going out on that balcony again, Mrs. Stewart. You're looking into the other apartment. You're listening to the argument. Do you remember what happened to the woman? He's hitting her. He's hitting her with the candlestick. And now he's hitting you.
Oh.
Hitting you with the candlestick. Hitting your head again and again.
Hurting my head.
The candlestick killing you. Soon you won't be able to remember anything. You can't hear the sound now. You can't hear anything. You can't hear. You can't remember. You can't remember. You can't remember. Edward's condition is deteriorating rapidly. If this continues, we will have to take steps to put him in a more suitable institution.
She's exhausted. You haven't got far to go.
Lane, do you think you could manage it here alone for the weekend?
Certainly. Why?
The trunk should be there tomorrow.
I've been wondering. There are no servants at the lodge. What'll happen when the trunk is delivered and there's no one to receive it?
Nothing. They'll just leave it on the back porch.
When are you leaving?
Tomorrow. Dr. Harvey's due here this afternoon.
Harvey? Coming here for what?
Stewart requested a consultation.
You're not going to let him examine her.
Of course. How would it have looked if I'd said no?
But he might discover something.
He has no reason to be suspicious.
You can't risk it. I won't let you.
I know what I'm doing, Elaine.
Darling, you're not thinking clearly.
I've never seen things so clearly before in my whole life.
You'll send me a report on her spinal test
Yes, Dr. Harvey.
and the other specimens.
Yes.
You know, Richard, I'm not sure I completely agree this was all brought on by her husband's late arrival. That was a contributing circumstance. I feel there may have been something else.
Well, that's always possible, of course, sir. But I found no evidence of it.
Just speculation.
Will you have a cigar, sir?
Yes, thank you. Let's continue the present treatment and see how she comes along.
Yes.
I notice, Richard, you've been giving her sedatives.
Yes, I have. She's been pretty difficult at times.
I'd go easy on them. If she's under sedation, there's no way of knowing when she comes back to normal.
No, I'd planned to take her off them within the next 24 hours.
Fine. By the way, how's Margaret?
I'm joining her at the lodge.
Give her my regards when you see her.
I will, thank you, sir.
Well, I'd better talk with the young man. Sometimes I wonder which are more difficult, patients or their families.
Hiya, beautiful.
Hi.
Yeah, what a night. You don't happen to know a blonde who'd like to relax with me, do you? That's what I thought you'd say.
Coffee?
Please. And poor Edwards, these storms don't do him any good. He kept ducking into his closet and slamming the door after him. Finally had to lock it. How's your patient?
All right, I guess.
I was talking with her husband. It's kind of tough coming home and finding a wife in that condition.
Yes.
Can't figure Dr. Cross's treatment. Why keep the poor guy from seeing his wife? I think it would have helped snap her out of it if she saw more of him.
Dr. Cross doesn't want to get her excited. After all, the attack was brought on by worry over him.
Yeah.
That was close.
starting to turn in. So you better tuck your patient in bed and get a good night's sleep.
Yes, I should be up there now.
Tell me, is it true that doctors get a night off once in a while?
If you had a night off, you wouldn't know what to do with it.
Wouldn't I? Wouldn't I?
Good night, Doctor.
Good night.
Well, another stormy weekend.
It is my night off. Well, anyway, the rain will help Jane on her day off.
Mr. Edwards, you shouldn't be in here. Come, I'll take you back.
Don't I? Don't be afraid. We won't let the storm hurt you. You're coming back to your room, aren't you, Mr. Edwards? Aren't you, Mr. Edwards? That's fine. Come along. Take care of him, Frank.
Yes, Doctor. Come along, sir.
Are you all right, Elaine?
Yes. Stay there, Mrs. Stewart. It's all over.
Oh, he killed her. He hit her on the head and he killed her. Her husband killed her.
This became very violent last night. This morning we found that he had a key hidden away. I ordered the lock on his door to be changed. As for Mrs. Stewart, she's suffering from hallucinations. She keeps insisting that she witnessed a murder, which obviously... Come in. Oh, hello, Lieutenant.
They told me I'd find you here. I hope I'm not interrupting.
Not at all. It's kind of rough, isn't it?
Yeah. She's out of her head. She's got a crazy idea she saw a murder. What am I going to do?
Ah, you're going to sit tight. She's in good hands.
So they keep telling me, but... Oh, she's getting worse. Now, I'm thinking of taking her back to San Francisco, to a hospital there.
I wouldn't do that if I were you, Lieutenant. Dr. Cross is tops. You know that. You brought Harvey in to consult. You can't do any better than that.
But I can't just sit around and watch her get worse. I've got to do something.
Lieutenant, I wouldn't try to kid you for the world. So far, we've tried to snap her out of it with quiet and rest and simple foods. Well, there are a dozen other things we can do. Electric therapy, insulin shock.
Insulin shock. They use that in the Army on guys who blow their tops.
Sure they do, because it often helps. But you're not going to turn it down on that account, are you?
No.
Well, relax. The setup here is perfect. Everybody's rooting for you. Now, just take it easy.
You mean that? Okay. Say, put in a couple of extra licks, Doc. I'd kind of like to take her home soon.
Okay, Lieutenant. We'll do everything we possibly can for her.
Goodbye, Doctor.
Goodbye.
Come on, take your car.
Look at this. Mrs. Cross is dead.
What? The body of Mrs. Margaret Cross, wife of the noted psychiatrist, has just been recovered from its resting place among the rocks at Point Lobos. Mrs. Cross has been missing since Friday night. Coroner Jess Haynes has pronounced the death accidental.
Good morning, Doctor. You have our deepest sympathy.
Thank you.
I'm terribly sorry, Doctor.
Thank you. Will you come in, Mr.
Yes, sir.
You're the perfect picture of a heartbroken husband.
Am I?
I've missed you.
Driving back, there was time to think. I got to thinking about you. I asked myself, is she worth what I've done?
Well? That was a very satisfactory answer.
How did things go while I was away?
Oh, darling, things are going so well I can hardly believe it.
What do you mean?
Mr. Edwards got out during the storm. He went into a room.
What?
He went after me. I struggled with him. She woke up and confused Mr. Edwards with you. She was thrown back into that night at the hotel.
Oh, Elaine, that undoes everything I've tried to do.
No, Stevens and Miss Hatfield heard her. They're convinced she's insane. Now, no matter what she says, they'll think she has hallucinations.
I see.
But you don't see, darling. Before you were trying to make a fit. Now she can talk her head off and no one will believe her. If we can encourage her to talk, convince her husband that she's insane, we can keep her here as long as it suits us. Then have her committed.
Darling. Janet, darling. It's me. Wake up. I'm here, dear.
Oh. I've waited all night for you, darling. What took you so long?
Don't worry, I'm with you now.
We have to be out by morning, Paul. They won't let us stay.
Lieutenant Stewart. You shouldn't be in here.
Paul! It's him!
Who is it, dear?
Him! He killed her. He killed his wife. He picked something up, Paul, and he hit her with it. He was arguing with her, and he killed her.
I know, dear.
You've upset her, Lieutenant. You shouldn't have come in here. Come outside with me. Give her a hypodermic, nurse.
Don't leave me here. You'll kill me. Come back. Paul, no.
What is it, Doctor? What's happened to her?
Lieutenant, I'm going to be perfectly frank with you. What you've just heard is something I've been afraid of. There are times when patients emerging from amnesia suffer from delusions. It doesn't happen often. I'd hoped it wouldn't happen in her case, but you heard her yourself.
But why?
Well, that's hard to explain. But if you come with me, I think I might be able to clarify it for you. Hello, Mrs. Penny.
Good day, Doctor.
How are you feeling today?
Just fine, Doctor, just fine.
That's a lovely thing you're knitting there.
It's a shawl for one of my friends.
Everyone here treating you well?
Oh, yes, they're very nice to me. Dr. Stevens hasn't tried to kill me with that needle for a long while now. Neither has Miss Hatfield.
Haven't I told you many times, Mrs. Penny, that no one here is trying to kill you?
Oh, yes, they are. You all want to kill me. You're murderers, all of you. But I've learned. I'm too smart for you.
What you've just heard, Lieutenant, for the second time, is the typical attitude of many of our patients towards the hospital staff.
But that old lady, she seemed all right.
Mrs. Penny is suffering from a paranoid form of dementia precox, characterized either by delusions of grandeur or delusions of persecution, or both. The patient, when confined to the hospital, almost invariably becomes convinced that the doctors and nurses who are treating him are really murderers intent on killing him. This delusion is quite common among mental cases in an institution of this sort.
Are you trying to tell me my wife is out of her mind?
No. Out of the mind denotes complete loss of reason. Mrs. Stewart hasn't reached that stage.
But she's got the same crazy ideas the other patients.
Right now, she's merely suffering delusions. However, I feel it's only fair to tell you, Lieutenant, that this condition can become worse. Our fight now is to prevent further deterioration of her mind.
You've got to help her, Doctor. You've got to get her well again.
I'll do everything I can. Believe me.
Come now, Mrs. Stewart, you shouldn't be out of bed.
Will you help me, please? Please, please help me. Get the police here, please.
We don't need the police, Mrs. Stewart. You come along with me and everything will be all
You
right.
don't understand. There's nothing the matter with me. I want the police. That doctor's a murderer.
But you go back to bed and we'll call them.
Don't talk to me as if I were crazy. I'm telling you the truth.
Orderly. Now come along, Mrs. Stewart. No one is going to hurt you. Everything is going to be all right. Orderly!
Let me go. No. I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy.
I wish you could have been there to see her yourself.
Yes, I heard about it this morning.
She had the usual delusions. She kept insisting that you were a murderer. You know how they get. She wanted me to call the police. For a moment, she became very violent. I had to give her a sedative. I think we ought to do something about her.
I agree with you, Doctor. I'll be in to see her in a few minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
There, you see? Everything worked out just as we planned.
Yes.
Well, smile, darling. It's fallen right in our lap. You don't seem particularly pleased.
I am. Of course I am, Elaine.
Well, what are you going to do?
I'm going to try to find something that will convince her that she's insane. You'd better get back to her now, darling. I'll be over in a few minutes.
Right.
You feeling any better today?
I'm all right. There's nothing the matter with me.
Miss Jordan tells me that you're still talking about some woman I'm supposed to have killed. I've asked you to stop thinking about such things, Mrs. Stewart.
But it was your own wife.
If I can prove to you that you couldn't have seen me kill my wife, would you believe that this is a delusion you've been suffering from?
You were arguing with her about a divorce.
If you will look at the date on this newspaper, Mrs. Stewart, you will see that my wife died only a week ago. You've been a patient here for over 3 weeks now.
3 weeks?
That's right. So you see, this has all been a very vivid dream. You must fight these dreams, Mrs. Stewart, or they're going to become worse, and we don't want that to happen.
My mind is all right.
It's not all right, Mrs. Stewart. Your mind is sick, and it's getting worse.
My mind is all right.
You wouldn't want your husband to see you in that condition, would you? He doesn't even want to see you when you're like this. You're losing your mind, Mrs. Stewart.
No, no.
Losing your mind.
Thank you, Miss Hatfield.
Dr. Cross,
Yes?
there's someone in your office to see you.
Did I have an appointment?
No, sir. He's from the district attorney's office of Monterey.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Dr. Cross?
Yes?
How are you? My name's O'Neill. I'm with the district attorney's office in Monterey County.
Oh, yes. What can I do for you?
It's in connection with your wife's death, Doctor.
I thought the case had been closed.
Something happened this week that made us consider the possibility that your wife didn't fall into that chasm by accident.
I don't understand.
A couple of days ago, someone broke into Harwood Lodge, beat Mrs. Harwood into unconsciousness, and made off with her valuables. We caught the thief day before yesterday.
But what has that to do with Mrs. Cross's death?
It may not have anything to do with it. It occurred to us that since the lodge was so close to your place, the man who clubbed Mrs. Harwood may have paid a visit to your wife. You've lived around Point Lobos for nearly 10 years. Mrs. Cross spent much of her time there. She must have known those cliffs pretty well, even at night.
Yes. I'd hate to think that
I'm not saying it was murder, Doctor. I'm just checking.
Of course. I'll do everything I can to help you.
I knew you'd feel that way about it. Have you checked your place to see if anything was missing?
I'm sure there isn't, or I'd have noticed it.
If it's all right with you, Doctor, we'd like to have Mrs. Cross's body exhumed.
But the coroner said...
It was only a routine examination.
Well, I don't know if that's necessary, Mr. O'Neill. You've got your man.
All we've got is a drunken old tramp who clubbed Mrs. Harwood and stole a little money and jewelry. We can't know about Mrs. Cross unless the body's exhumed.
But it seems almost sacrilegious. Hasn't she been through enough? Haven't I?
I'd hoped you'd be more understanding, Doctor. Naturally, we'll get a court order, but it would be much simpler if you... If this tramp killed your wife, you want to see him punished, don't you?
Of course.
Then you can't conscientiously object to the exhumation.
No. No, Mr. O'Neill, I can't. If the man is guilty, he must be punished, of course.
Thank you, Doctor. You'll hear from me one way or the other within the next few days. Thank you for your cooperation.
Darling, I've been so worried I didn't know what had happened to you. Where'd you been?
City.
When you weren't here for dinner, I began to worry. What did the man from the district attorney's office want?
They're going to exhume Margaret's body.
You're not going to let them.
I had nothing to say about it. They'd get a court order.
But why are they? I don't
think some prowler may have killed her.
Prowler?
They weren't looking for anything before. She slipped and fell and fractured her skull against the rocks. Now they may discover it wasn't the fall that killed her.
They can't prove anything.
No. Once they start asking questions, That's why I went to the city. I had to make sure that I hadn't overlooked anything in the apartment. Why didn't I report it in the first place? Why did I let you talk me into it? If it weren't for that Stewart girl, if they start asking questions and find her...
Maybe they won't find her. We've taken care of everything else so far. If we have to, we'll take care of her, too. And you're not helping matters acting this way.
If a man wanted to, if he had courage, he could get rid of her and no one would ever know. Doctor has an advantage. I could give her insulin shock treatment. Shock treatment's indicated in a case like hers. I could give her 4 injections. Then with the last one, an overdose. No one would ever know the difference.
Then we'd be safe. No matter what the district attorney's office found, we'd be safe. They'd have nothing on us, Richard. We could get married then. You'd be yourself again, Richard. We'd find peace and quiet here, just the two of us.
You don't think I'd do it, do you?
Why not? Is her life more important than ours?
I've had enough. Look, Elaine, I can't go on like this. Things keep piling up. First it was Margaret, and then tricking that child so that she'd forget. Then convincing her that she was insane. There's a limit beyond which even I can't go.
Richard, remember the first night I came here? Remember? You were alone. You were sitting here in front of the fireplace with a sick headache. The lights were out. You didn't hear me when I knocked, and I opened the door, and you said, "Oh, it's you, Miss Jordan." You called me Miss Jordan then, remember? I told you I had to see you about Mrs. Penny's prescription. You talked to me and you saw that I was tired and you asked me if I wouldn't have a drink. I hesitated and you said, "I won't bite your head off, Miss Jordan." We had a drink. Remember? You sat here for a long time and then suddenly you laughed and you said your headache was gone. And you asked me about my family and I told you. And we both laughed. Remember? Then you took me in your arms. I know you remember that.
I won't do it, Lily. I won't do it.
Just a minute, I'm coming.
Hello, Doctor.
Come in.
I hope you hadn't gone to bed.
No.
They told me at the hospital I'd find you here.
I didn't expect to see you so soon, Mr. O'Neill. I thought you'd phone me if there were any developments.
I had to serve the papers.
Oh, yes?
Coroner's inquest subpoena. Now it's legal.
What did the coroner find?
Your wife was murdered, Doctor.
Oh? Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
Sit down, Mr. O'Neill.
She was beaten over the head, suffered an explosive fracture. Death was practically instantaneous.
This prowler you told me about, you think he did it?
Seems so. He clubbed Mrs. Harwood. Your wife went out the same way. A pattern. Killers usually follow a pattern.
You don't know how she was killed? I mean, the weapon?
She was struck with a candlestick.
A candlestick? Are you sure?
A heavy silver one.
How can you know?
Microscope. There were particles of silver in the wound. They told us it was a silver object. There were bits of wax mixed in with the silver. They told us it was a candlestick. Must have been a heavy candlestick to have done the damage. Just routine, Doctor.
A criminal doesn't have much of a chance these days, does he?
No, sir. By the way, do you have any silver candlesticks at the lodge?
We might have.
I'd like your permission to go through the house. The murderer may have left the candlestick behind, in which case we'll get fingerprints. If he got rid of the weapon, we may be able to find the mate. Then we'll know what to look for.
Of course. Go right ahead.
Thanks. Now, if we can find the candlestick, our troubles are over. By the way, when did you see Mrs. Cross last? Alive, I mean.
Oh, a couple of weeks before she was killed. Why?
Can you place it a little more definitely?
I think so. Things had been piling up around here, and I needed a change. So I drove down to Point Lobos on a Friday night.
Anyone see you?
I don't think so. Why?
We're trying to fix the exact time of her death.
Well, I'm not sure anyone saw me. I drove down there on Friday night, left there around 9:30 Saturday night.
Well, it's not too important.
Naturally, I want to do everything I can to help you, Mr. O'Neill. If I think of anything, I'll get in touch with you.
Thanks. Sorry to bother you so late.
That's all right.
See you at the inquest. Good night, Doctor.
Good night.
all others keep only unto her, so long as she both shall live. I do.
What's the matter, Richard? You haven't been yourself lately. Something on your mind? Darling, what's happening with us? Richard, I must speak to you. People are talking about you and that nurse, Miss Jordan. How do you like my hair, Richard? Of course, I've had it dyed. Everyone says it makes me look years younger.
I could give her 4 injections. Then with the last one, an overdose.
Then we'd be safe. No matter what the district attorney's office found, we'd be safe.
Get me Lieutenant Stewart, please. The treatment itself consists of a series of shocks brought on by injections of insulin. The dosage and the degree of shock is gradually increased until we've reached what we feel is the limit the patient's system can stand.
Well, if you do give Janet this insulin, how certain can you be that it'll help her?
I'm neither a miracle man nor a prophet, Lieutenant. If medicine were an exact science and not an art, I might be able to tell you.
But you think there's a chance?
Yes, I do.
I have seen it work in the Army. All right, Doctor, go ahead and try it.
Fine. We'll begin the treatment tomorrow morning. Give her about an hour and a half.
Harvey in?
Yes, he's in. Do you have an appointment?
I'll be glad to consult with you, Doctor.
I'm sorry to break in this way.
But my secretary will make the appointment.
I had to see you, Doctor. It's about my wife. She's been getting insulin shock treatments.
Now, just a moment, young man. Oh, it's Lieutenant Stewart. Well, we've had some wonderful results with insulin.
But after 3 treatments, she still insists she saw Dr. Cross murder his wife with a candlestick.
Murder his wife?
Yes, and she says he's trying to kill her now.
Well, that's a very common delusion.
Mrs. Cross is dead, and Dr. Cross did live in our hotel.
You and the Crosses were in the same hotel?
In the Belmont Arms.
I see. And when was it she said that? Yesterday?
Yes, after the treatment.
You realize it's hard to make generalizations. But as a rule, the patient is completely normal immediately after insulin shock. They may relapse into their hallucination after this lucid period. But for that moment, no matter how bad the case, the patient speaks the truth.
You're telling me in your own way that Janet's normal. That she's got something on Cross, and he's pretending she's crazy to save his own neck.
Well, I'm not saying quite that, but,
Will you read this, Doctor?
Get Dr. Cross at his sanatorium, please. It seems inconceivable. Hello, Dr. Cross.
I'm sorry, Dr. Harvey. Dr. Cross is with Mrs. Stewart. No, sir, this is Dr. Stevens' day off.
I see. Thank you. Well, Lieutenant, I think a trip is in order.
She's the only one who knows, Richard. No matter what O'Neill says or anyone else, if she's out of the way, we've nothing to worry about. They can hint and guess all they want, but without her, they have nothing.
Can't do it, Elaine. Dexterous. I've got to bring her out.
No. No, you can't. Dick, you can't.
Dexterous, Elaine. I've got to save her. I've got
You
to.
can. I won't let you. We've got to go through with this.
Don't you understand? I can't go through with it.
Her life or ours. No one will ever know.
Elaine.
Richard, listen to me.
Let go of her.
Richard, I love you. Let go. Richard!
Dr. Cross, where is he?
Mrs. Stewart.
Come along, I may need you. Adrenaline, quickly. Don't worry, son. She'll come out of it in a couple of hours, and you'll be able to take her home in 2 or 3 days.
I'm very grateful to you, Doctor. Oh, Janet, darling.
September 13th. In the case of Janet Stewart. I gave her insulin shock again today, for the 4th time. Can you give me a minute? Thank you. Dr. Harvey completed the treatment successfully, and the case is closed.
is the Oaks, a house in the country which I rented for the summer. As an author, I write tales of mystery and murder. But the things that happened in this house were far more fantastic than any story I've ever had published. I brought a staff of servants from my city apartment, and my maid Lizzie Allen, who had been with me nearly 20 years.
Lizzie?
Yes, Miss Cornelia?
Is the car ready?
It's at the door. Look, Miss Cornelia, them servants you brought from the apartment are talking about walking out on us.
Really? Well, I know they don't like it here, but I didn't think it was that bad.
Well, they've been hearing things about the killer that the police call the Bat and the murders that he committed here this past winter. Now people are saying that he's back again.
Well, how can they be sure of that? Has he committed another crime?
No, not yet, but that ain't saying that he won't. Here's something else. You've heard about the bats they have here. Animal bats, the kind that fly.
Yes, yes.
Look what it says in this magazine. This is a report from the State Health Department, and it says some of them bats is rabid.
Well.
And that ain't all. Now there's a rumor going around that it was the bat himself, the killer, I mean, that released the rabid bats in this neighborhood.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Well, the housekeeper, the cook, the butler, and the upstairs maid don't think so.
Well, I can't help but they think. If hysterical nonsense like that can scare them out of their good jobs, it's their loss, not mine. Come on, Lizzie, I've got to get to the bank. Drive directly to Zenith Bank, Warner. I'm afraid we'll have to hurry. It's near closing time.
I'll get you there, Miss Van Gorder.
Thanks again.
Miss Van Gorder.
How do you do, Mr. Barry?
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You remember Lizzie Allen?
Of course. Hello, Miss
How
Allen.
do you do?
So you're spending the summer with us again?
Yes, yes. I've leased the Oaks, the home of your bank president, John Fleming.
I heard you had. I was surprised.
Why? Is there something the matter with it?
No. I was surprised because Mr. Fleming said he would never rent it.
Oh? Well, I rented it from his nephew, Mark Fleming, who has the real estate office here. He said his uncle would be gone the entire summer.
That's right. Mr. Fleming's in the North Woods now with his physician, Dr. Wells. Oh, pardon me. Dale, I want you to meet my wife. We were married at Christmas time.
That must have been nice.
Believe me, it was. Oh, here she is. My wife, Miss Van Gorder, Miss Allen.
How do you do, Mrs.
How do you
Bailey?
do? Cornelia Van Gorder.
Yes.
Oh, well, I've read every murder mystery you've ever written. I just adored that weird one, The Private Morgue of Dr. X, even though it gave me the shivers.
Only the shivers? Scared hell out of me.
Oh.
Well, I really mean that Miss Corney killed them off in that one.
When you refer to my books, please don't call me Miss Corney.
Pardon me, Mr. Bailey. Mr. Hines is here to see you. Oh, yes. Excuse me, please. Don't be strangers now.
No, no,
I
we
should
won't.
say not.
Oh, so you're a bride.
Well, not quite.
Not since Christmas.
You know, I'm sure I've seen you.
Well, I used to be my husband's secretary here in the bank.
Of course I remember.
May I welcome our most distinguished visitor back to Zenith?
Oh, that's very charming, but,
Lieutenant Anderson.
Lieutenant Anderson, of course. Chief of Detectives of the Zenith Police Department. This is Miss Allen.
Miss Allen.
How do you do?
Lieutenant Anderson is one of our favorite citizens. He's on the bank's board of directors.
Not bad for a policeman.
You must have made a good thing of it.
Well, I saved my money, if that's what you mean.
It's near closing time, and I've got some business in the safe deposit vault. Please come and see me, Mrs. Bailey.
Oh, I'd love to.
And you, Lieutenant.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Nice to meet you. My, what a charming woman. She moved into the Oaks just the other day.
That house is a proper setting for a writer of mysteries.
Oh, it certainly is. Vic, what's the matter?
Come in here, both of you. Andy, we're in trouble. Wendell Hines came in to pick up $350,000 worth of bonds that we were holding as collateral for a loan. They were kept in our special vault. Mr. Fleming and I are the only officers of the bank who have access to that vault.
So?
The Hines bonds are gone. That's not all. Other negotiable securities are missing. From what I can gather, short of a careful check, the bank has been looted of over $1 million worth of securities.
You'll have to notify Fleming.
I wish I could talk to him. Unfortunately, he and Dr. Wells are deep in the woods. They can't be reached by phone.
What is it?
I thought I heard someone on the path coming from the lake. Had an idea it might be that guide of ours.
Oh, Sam won't show up until morning. It's a 20-mile canoe trip from here to civilization.
5 will get you 10. Sam has a message for me.
I thought you told him at the bank not to bother you.
I did, but they'll bother me. Doctor.
Yes, John.
What would you do for $500,000?
Anything short of murder.
Why not murder?
Too messy.
Too great a risk?
For $500,000? Yes.
I pinched $1 million from the bank. Well, I'm not kidding. I embezzled it.
Not that I think you wouldn't do it if you thought you could get away with it.
I got away with it. I'm not talking about currency. I took negotiable securities that could be converted into cash. I have the cash. In 10s, 20s, and 100s.
Well, I'm your doctor, not your lawyer. Why tell me this?
You'll find out why.
Who's going to take the blame for the robbery?
Bailey, the cashier. They'll never suspect me.
I like Bailey.
Well, so do I. I love the guy. I gave him his first chance.
He has a lovely little wife.
Charming girl. Was the best man.
Where's the $1 million?
In my family's tomb in Zenith. In the crypt with my father's casket.
I don't buy that, John.
No?
No. You forget that I had you in charge when you were a very sick man. When you raved in delirium. And I heard you talk about a hidden room. Now, where else could you put a hidden room except in that mansion you built? That white elephant you call the Oaks.
Look, everyone knows I have a bad heart. Now, who would doubt it if you wired the bank directors that my heart had failed? That I had fallen from a great height here in the woods. And that I was badly smashed up. You could ship the body back for burial and instruct them not to open the casket due to the condition of its contents.
Well, you realize, of course, that we'd have to have a body to put in that casket, which means that we'd have to deal with an undertaker at this end.
Of course.
Well, where do we get a body?
Couldn't we provide one of our own? How about Sam?
Sam, our guide?
Sam weighs about as much as I do. He's practically a hermit. He wouldn't be missed for a long time.
The local undertaker would know him.
Not if we made him look as if he'd been in a serious accident.
But if Bailey's going to take the blame, why'd he have to do this?
A jury might acquit him. In that case, I'd be a logical suspect. I could disappear, of course, but it's safer if they think I'm dead.
What if I don't go for this deal?
In that case, it would be too bad.
You mean you'd kill me?
What else could I do? Now that I've told you about the $1 million, I'd say you were shot in a hunting accident. Now, look, Doctor, if you can find another body instead of Sam's, it's all right with me. There's $500,000 in it for you.
I'll do my best.
I smell smoke.
So do I. What's that noise?
Look, Doctor, the woods are on fire. It's It's coming this way. We've got to get out of here. Out the back way.
We will. As soon as I provide that body we were talking about.
Yes, Miss Cornelia. There's a storm coming up, and it's gonna be a snorter. The wind nearly blew the door off its hinges.
Well, that noise blew my game higher than a kite. I think I've lost some of the cars.
Oh, I'll get them for you.
Oh, I see you found the paper.
Drat that paper boy, scooting by on his bicycle, just chucked it into a clump of bushes and let it go at that. For land's sake, Mr. Vic Bailey's been arrested.
Oh?
I think.
Victor Bailey, vice president and cashier of the Zenith Bank, was arraigned before United States Commissioner Alvin Fielding, charged with the embezzlement of over $1 million. I can't believe Vic Bailey had anything to do with that robbery. Oh, well, I see our landlord is home again.
Landlord?
Mr. Fleming. Dr. Malcolm Wells is back in town with the body of John Fleming, president of the Zenith Bank, who was killed in a forest fire. Mr. Fleming will be laid to rest in his family's tomb on Friday.
And I hope he stays there.
Well, why shouldn't he?
Well, this is his house. And ever since he died, some funny things have happened here.
For instance?
The housekeeper, the cook, and the butler said that they heard strange noises at night. And the upstairs maid swore that she met a man without a face coming up the back stairs.
Oh, so that's why they quit and left me to run this place without a staff.
They didn't tell you, Miss Corney, but the truth is they were scared to stay.
But you're still here, Lizzie. Haven't you seen anything?
No. No, and even if I had, I ain't afraid of ghosts. They're afraid of me. Honest, Miss Corney, a spiritualist told me once that ghosts was allergic to me. But this Bat feller they keep talking about in the paper, I guess he'd be different.
No, I don't think you'd have the same effect on him.
Oh, dear. What are they trying to do? Drive people away from this part of the country?
Why, what does it say about the bats?
Specialty seems to be killing women. My goodness, 2 of them in one night. All his victims died the same way, like their throats had been ripped open with steel claws.
That's a charming little caper. I'll have to try it sometime.
In a book. That ain't nothing, just something bumping against the house. That's just the wind banging a door. Pay no attention to it. Listen to this. One of his victims who lived for a moment after she was found described the bat as a man without a face. Honest, Miss Corney, I think that woman must have been exaggerating. That's just that heavy tapestry at the top of the stairs.
I know. I've heard it before on a windy night. That sounds as if there was someone on the stairs. I know there isn't. At least there shouldn't be.
There ain't. Them's just the noises you hear in any old house on a windy night. It says here that the bat never leaves no fingerprints.
That's understandable. Having no face, he probably has no fingers either. Lizzie! And that, I suppose, is the cat dropping its dentures.
No, I don't think so. But I think it's something should be looked into. Now, who chucked him down here?
The wind, I hope. There must be a window open up there. No, Lizzie. Let him lay. Let him sleep it off. I hope the power lines don't go down, put the lights out. Now, we'll check the windows in the living room and draw the curtains, and then we'll go to bed.
Yes, ma'am. I won't be a minute. Gordy! Oh! What's that? Oh, I went to get the tape. I turned the latch off. I forgot to turn it on again. He's out there. He was coming in. He might have got you.
Oh, but he didn't, and he's still out there, thanks to you. Now, you hurry now, and we'll call the police.
No, I won't leave you, Miss Corny.
Are you okay?
Yes, ma'am, I'm okay.
Okay.
Operator?
Give me the police department, please.
Zenith Police Department.
This is Cornelia Van Gorder. I'm living at the Oaks.
We know about that, Miss Van Gorder.
Just a moment ago, a man tried to force his way into this house.
You're not alone there, are you? What about your servants?
Well, I have none except my chauffeur, and he's away. He won't be back until the morning. Now, there's only 2 of us here tonight, and we're going to lock ourselves in my room. Now, if any of your men see anything, will you have them call me?
I'll send officers over there right away.
Well, thank you very much. Come on, Lizzie. We're going to sleep in my room. Well, nothing can get at us in this room now, I think. This door seems good and solid.
Like the door to a tomb.
I think that couch will be comfortable. There's some extra bedding, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
Closet. Let's see now. Huh? No bolt. Well, that's not so good. What's that for? That, my good woman, is a booby trap. If anybody tries to open this transom, this will be knocked off, and we'll hear it fall.
I forgot my night things, my robe, my gown, and my slippers. I'll go get them now.
Now, wait a minute, Lizzie. I'll go with you.
Now, don't you bother, Miss Cornelia. My room's just down the hall.
Lizzie, I told you to wait.
It's all right. I'll only be a second. Get in here. Get in here.
Yes?
Miss Van Gorder?
Yes?
Zenith Police Department. There's a police car just outside your house, and the officers in it have reported that there's no sign of a prowler anywhere on the grounds.
Well, the man's inside now. He's in the hall just outside my bedroom. Have your men break through the kitchen door and search this place from top to bottom.
Okay, Miss Van Gorder. Sit tight.
I will. I have a gun, and I know how to use it. relax, Lizzie. The police did a good job. They couldn't find anybody in here.
But we both saw him, Miss Cornelia.
All right, so he got away. But there are men on guard outside, so just try and get some rest. There's nothing can get at us here. You've had a nightmare.
Maybe I did. But there was a bat and it bit me. And it flew in that closet.
Oh, good gracious, Lizzie, you're right. Oh. Operator, will you get me Dr. Malcolm Wells' office, please? No, I don't know his number, and I have no phone book up here, but this is an emergency. Will you connect me with his office, please?
Oh, dear, I'm going to get the rabies.
Hello?
Hello? Dr. Wells' office?
This is a call service. Dr. Wells is out at the moment, but if you'll give me your name and number, I'll try to locate him.
Well, this is Miss Van Gorder of the Oaks. My maid has just been bitten by a bat that may be rabid, and she must have treatment as soon as possible. And I was told that Dr. Wells was the nearest physician.
I'll try to find him for you, and if I can't, I'll send you another doctor.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Oh, he's out on a case. Oh, I hope it's not a delivery. A baby, I mean. They can be terribly complicated.
It never bothered me none.
Oh, Lizzie, you never had a baby.
Of course I didn't. That's why they never bothered me.
Oh, does it hurt, huh?
A little.
Dr. Wells? Are you there, Dr. Wells? Are you there, Dr. Wells? This is the operator. Your call service is on the wire. It's an emergency.
This is Dr. Wells.
This is your call service, Doctor.
Oh, hello. I was just doing an experiment. I left the receiver off.
That's what I thought, but I kept trying. Miss Van Gorder at the Oaks called and said that her maid had been bitten by a bat, and she's afraid it might be rabid.
What? Oh, all right. Tell her I'll be right over there.
Who's there?
Dr. Wells.
Come in.
Good evening.
Oh, I'm so glad they found you, Doctor.
Well, I reached my office shortly after you called. How is your maid? Is she in any pain?
No, she doesn't seem to be.
Did the bat get away?
No, I believe it's still in my bedroom.
Oh, good. I'll want to examine it. There you go, Miss Allen. Now you feel better?
Doctor, have I got the rabies?
Well, I can tell you better after I've examined the bat's brain under a microscope.
That thing's got a brain?
Oh, you'd be surprised. Well, where is it?
I think the little darling is in that closet.
Oh. You know, it's a pity you leased this house, Miss Van Gorder.
Why a pity?
Well, my dear lady, I don't want to alarm you, but...
Oh, well, after tonight, nothing can alarm me.
Yes, I understand. It must have been terrifying. So many unexplainable things have happened here. There's something about the place. Your servants must have sensed it when they walked out on you. An apprehension of disaster. Well, let's see. Aha! Yes. There he is. All right, now. Take it easy. Nobody's going to hurt you. Quiet now. Quiet. And he looks quite normal. Doesn't seem to be sick at all.
Oh, ain't that nice? I've been worried about him.
Well, you should be. From his appearance, I'd say that he doesn't have any infection. In which case, you've had a narrow escape. Now, you take one of those tablets I left for you, and I'll guarantee you a good night. And I'll drop in on you tomorrow.
Oh, thanks for everything, Doctor.
Now, don't worry. I can find my way out.
Oh, I know you can, but do let me help you.
Oh, don't forget that once I'm gone, you'll have to climb those stairs alone.
Oh, I'm all right. I'm armed now.
Can you shoot one of those things without shutting your eyes?
Oh, Doctor, there are guns in every book I've ever written. I don't write about things I'm unfamiliar with. Lock the door, Lizzie.
Good night.
Yes, ma'am. Good night, Doctor.
Accident?
No, the wind blew him down.
Oh.
I think.
Oh. Did you know that young Mark Fleming leased you this house without notifying his uncle?
No, I didn't.
Well, it doesn't matter now. John Fleming is dead and Mark's his heir. But if John were alive, he would warn you to leave here, Miss Van Gorder.
Really?
Yes. It's been a tragic place for anyone who ever lived in it. Well, good night.
Good night, Doctor.
Who's out there?
Nobody you need worry about, Doctor.
Oh, it's Andy.
Oh. That's right. Oh, good evening, Miss Van Gorder.
Good evening, Lieutenant.
Somebody sick here?
My maid was bitten by a bat.
Oh? A rabid bat?
Well, I'll know for sure when I get to my lab. I caught the bat.
It happened indoors?
In my bedroom, yes.
How'd it get in?
Well, there are many ways a bat could get in a house.
You ought to know. I spotted this hole in the window the minute I got here.
Why?
That's where the two-legged bat got your door open.
Miss Van Gorder told me that she phoned headquarters at Zenith.
Yes, I phoned twice. The second time was after the prowler got in the house.
Weren't you at headquarters, Andy?
No, but they contacted me.
An officer came and searched the house from top to bottom, but they couldn't find the bat.
You better have this window fixed tomorrow.
Oh, yes, I certainly shall.
Yes, and I'd better be going. I'm due in surgery at 8 o'clock in the morning. Good night.
Good night, Doctor.
There'll be a man patrolling the grounds all night, Miss Van Gorder.
Oh, thank you.
And nobody inside, Andy?
Why should there be?
Well, how do you know but what the bat is hiding somewhere in the house?
I'm quite sure he isn't in the house, Doctor. Not now. Good night.
Good night.
Hello, Mark. Well, congratulations. Real estate business must be picking up. New office, new furniture.
New deal. How do you like it?
Looks expensive. Are you squandering your inheritance?
Oh, I haven't got it yet.
Well, the paper says John Fleming left his entire fortune to you.
Funny thing about that entire fortune is that we can't find it.
No kidding.
Oh, all Uncle John had in his bank account was a couple of $100. And his safe deposit box was empty.
If we don't find that missing million, mine will be empty, too.
How come?
Well, all my savings were invested in Zenith Bank stock. The examiners won't certify the bank is solvent until those stolen securities are found. So the stockholders have voted an assessment that will wipe some of us out. It's a since those securities have been converted into cash. And if I can't find that cash, I'm sunk.
Well, where are you going to look for it, Andy?
Here in Zenith. Your uncle wouldn't take $1 million on a hunting trip, would he?
You suspect Uncle John? Why, Andy, he founded the Zenith Bank. That'd be like robbing the family tomb.
You think he wouldn't?
Well, besides, Vic Bailey's fingerprints are all over the vault. Now, they didn't find any of Uncle John's fingerprints.
Because he wiped them off.
Can the defense prove that?
They'll try to. Judy Hollander, Bailey's secretary, is a defense witness. And they believe her testimony will have a powerful effect on the jury.
Oh, well, she has a powerful effect on me. Judy's a doll.
Here's the book you mentioned, Judy.
It's your newest one.
Yes, it's just been published. You can have that copy if you wish.
Oh, it's a first edition and you've signed it.
Yes, of course.
Thank you so much.
May I serve tea now, Miss Van Gorder?
Yes, please do, Warner.
Thank you.
Well, I see you've engaged new servants.
Yes, of course.
Well, how did you persuade them to live in this house?
Well, Jane Patterson, my new housekeeper, knows this house better than you do, Doctor.
Oh?
She worked for John Fleming. And Warner was my chauffeur.
Chauffeur turned butler?
Incredible. He can play any part at a moment's notice. Did you get a plumber, Warner?
No, we can't get a plumber for 3 days, madam.
What about that leaking pipe? The basement will be flooded in 3 days.
Well, the pipe is no longer leaking.
You mean it's dried up of its own accord?
No, not quite. I packed the elbow where the water was coming out.
Packed the elbow? Oh.
Thank you, madam.
Now, there's a character.
How long did you say that he worked for you as chauffeur?
About 3 months.
Well, I hope he doesn't have a police record. My dear Dale, it may interest you to know that the last night of his life, John Fleming told me that he loved your husband like a son. If Fleming were alive today, he would be fighting to prove Vic's innocence.
Could Mr. Fleming prove his own innocence?
Miss Van Gorder, can there be any doubt about it?
There will be when Miss Hollander testifies at Vic's trial.
Oh? You know something that we haven't heard yet, Judy?
Something I saw with my own eyes. She's not permitted to say what it was.
My dear girl, I wouldn't think of asking her. But let's assume for a moment that Fleming did steal the $1 million. Now, what would he do about it? Where is it?
Hidden someplace where he could lay his hands on it without getting caught in the act. Now, if I was writing this, instead of living in the middle of it, I'd hide it right here in this spooky old house.
Under a loose floorboard or up a chimney?
If Mr. Fleming had the nerve to steal $1 million, he'd make his plans well in advance. I'd say he'd prepare a place to hide it. Possibly when this house was being built. Now, I rented this place from Mark Fleming, his nephew. I wonder if he'd have the floor plans.
I'll ask him.
Yes. Lizzie, will you bring Mrs. Bailey the phone? Oh, you ask him now. His number is Summit 7537.
Oh, thank you, Lizzie. Summit
7537.
Not bad, eh, Andy? That means new business. Now, you see, somebody wants to buy a house. Mark Fleming speaking. Oh, hello, Dale. Well, hang on a minute, honey, while I see if I have him. It's Dale Bailey, all excited. Miss Van Gorder wants to know if I have the floor plans of the Oaks. Now, what would she want with the floor plans?
Well, she suggested to me that your uncle might have hidden the bank loot there. Are the plans here?
Well, they're somewhere in the house itself. Wait a minute, there is a place where Uncle Johnny might have kept those blueprints.
What place?
Well, I heard him talk about it a good many years ago. I can't be sure of the exact location. Anyway, I don't think the old boy had the guts to steal $1 million. But if I find those plans, I'll let you know, Andy. Hello, Dale. Look, honey, I haven't seen those plans since I was a kid, but I'll come over tonight and maybe we can find them.
Thank you, Mark. We'll expect you. He seems to think they're here in the house somewhere. He's coming over tonight.
Well, that's good. Dale and Judy are my house guests for the weekend. Would you like to have dinner with us tonight?
Oh, no, thank you. I couldn't. I still have a few calls to make. You know, if Judy's testimony is going to clear Vic Bailey and implicate John Fleming, others may get the idea that there's buried treasure in this house. Don't even mention your testimony until you're actually on the stand.
Oh, I won't.
That's a smart girl, Judy, and a very lovely girl. Well, good afternoon, ladies.
Goodbye,
Doctor.
Dr. Will.
Come on, girls, let's go. I should be putting them down on paper. Weren't you your husband's secretary, Dale?
Yes, I was.
Do you take shorthand?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my dear, if you'd like to have your mind occupied, I want you to work with me while I write the story of this fantastic criminal, the Bat. As usual.
Wonderful. Oh, what a lovely piece of silver. It's an original, isn't it?
Yes, they still use them in England for buffet breakfasts. Hot water in the bottom. Should keep us hot for sausages and for scrambled eggs. Interesting. It's very useful. Really nice.
Clock hasn't struck the hour in the last 10 years, if I'm to believe what Mark Fleming told me.
Why is it angled away from the wall like that?
I don't know. Somebody must have moved it. Lizzie, very likely when she was dusting.
Wait a minute. Did you know there's a door in this paneling?
No, I didn't.
Oh, my gracious, so there is.
Maybe it opens to a secret passage.
Oh, certainly to a secret something.
Who knows, girls? We'll be about to stumble on that missing million.
Oh, panel. There's a panel. There must be some gimmick to it. There always is.
Yes, move.
Oh.
Calling car 11. Calling car 11. Proceed to the Oaks in Zenith Township immediately. A homicide has been reported.
Okay. Proceeding to the Oaks. Notify the county coroner, Dr. Wells. Tell him to come to the Oaks at once. horrible.
As if his throat had been torn by some creature with fangs or claws.
That's his sign. We found it on the others he killed. I'd hoped those reports that he was up to his old tricks again were pure imagination, but apparently they're based on fact. He's come back. Back to the scene of his kills. Yes, that's who I mean. That's who did this. The bat. Who found Mark?
We all did. And his Dale and Judy and I. Lizzie was in the dining room. This is my new housekeeper, Jane Patterson. You know, she worked for John Fleming.
I know her. Where were you, Mrs. Patterson?
In the kitchen, cleaning up. I cooked the dinner tonight.
Did you know that the secret closet was here?
No. It was behind the grandfather's clock.
Well, it was I who found it, really. Noticed the clock had been moved and the door wasn't quite closed.
I'll get it.
Who is it? Mark Fleming.
As coroner, you saw the same wounds on the others. How long's he been dead?
Oh, I'd say about a half an hour. Do you believe it was the bat?
That's the bat's trademark.
Perhaps he's still in the house.
That's possible.
Why should he be?
Because he's looking for something, and like you, he believes it's here. And he's a persistent killer. I would advise you to get out of this house as quickly as possible, notwithstanding our expert police protection. Have you called the morgue?
They're on their way here.
Oh, good. I want to examine the body before they get here. May we take it into another room?
Yes, to the sunroom in the back.
Thank you. Give me a hand.
Excuse me. Oh, Warner, where have you been?
Well, madam, has been an accident?
There's been a murder. Mark Fleming, the young man from whom I leased this place, was killed here tonight.
They know who did it?
Well, they believe it was the bat.
I'm sorry I had to use the front door, Miss Van Gorder, but I forgot my keys, and when I rang the bell at the kitchen door, there was no response.
Oh, this is Warner, Lieutenant. He's my butler. He was my chauffeur.
Why'd you promote him?
But it's very difficult to find a butler. They don't like service in the country.
Have you been a butler before?
I've served in many capacities, sir, but this was my night off, and I forgot my keys.
I heard that part. What time did you leave the house tonight?
Oh, about 6:30. I had dinner at Wiley's Roadhouse.
Can you prove where you spent the rest of the evening?
I can try.
Try hard. And don't leave the house. I'll get to you later.
Very good, sir. I shall be in my room, Miss Van Gorder, if you need me.
Yes, Warner. Surely you don't think he's...
Warren and I've met before. I can't recall where or when, but I will. There'll be a crew here shortly from headquarters, dusting for fingerprints, taking photographs. But in the meantime, Mrs. Patterson, you aren't leaving the house tonight, are you?
No, Lieutenant.
Don't. I'll talk to you in the morning. Good night.
Good night, sir. Good night, Miss Van Gorder.
Dale, I was with Mark Fleming this afternoon when you talked to him about the floor plans of this house. I heard him tell you he was coming here tonight.
Dale called him at my request. She told me he was coming.
Who else heard her tell you that?
Judy, Lizzie.
And that nice Dr. Wells.
Dr. Wells. There are a few killers who kill for the fun of it. The bat very likely is a mental case, and I'm convinced that his crimes are motivated by his mania for personal gain. There's $1 million at large, and he's going to keep on hunting for it until he lays his hands on it. Now, these young ladies are staying here tonight?
Yes, they're my house guests.
Well, when my crew arrives, we'll be busy for a while, so I'd suggest that
we go to our rooms? That's a very good idea. Come on, girls.
a police guard for this house tonight, Lieutenant.
You've got one. I'm going to cover this place tonight from the attic to the basement. If the bat makes another call, I'll have a little surprise for him.
Who is he? Have you any idea?
He could be anybody. So far, there are clues to his identity, but nothing we could take before a jury. I am afraid we must look higher than the criminal world. He may be a merchant, lawyer, doctor, scientist, one of the pillars of his community. Ladies, lock your doors tonight. Stay behind them. I promise you you'll be safe. Good night.
Good night, Lieutenant.
Good night.
So young. Well, Doctor, do you agree it was the bat?
In my report, I shall say the death was caused by the same technique used in the other killings. A paralyzing blow to the throat, followed by severe lacerations of the jugular, resulting in excessive hemorrhage.
In a layman's language, he didn't know what hit him.
Oh, he knew. But he didn't have time to think about it. Staying here tonight, Andy?
Well, until I check the doors and windows, but I'll be back bright and early in the morning.
Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stays these couriers from the swift completion of their appointed rounds.
A lot of people are due for a shock when I close this case.
Yes, I'm sure they are. Good night, Andy. Don't get hurt.
Good night, Doctor.
You know, I think we'd better let you get some sleep.
Oh, Lizzie and I share this room for mutual protection. You know, one night, a storm blew the wires down, put the lights out, and I went out the next day and bought a half a dozen of these things. You better take one with you, Dale.
Oh, thank you.
We'll go across the hall now.
Are you sure there's nothing else you need?
Oh, no. Quite sure. We'll be all right.
Well, if anything bothers you, you just sing out, and two strong women will come to your rescue.
Oh, nothing will bother us. Not with Andy on the job.
No. Well, good night.
Good night, Miss Van Gorder. See you in the
Don't worry. Everything will be all right.
We won't. Good night.
Good night.
I don't think I'll sleep tonight.
Me neither.
All I can see is poor Mark Fleming staring at us. I thought that when people died, their eyes closed, as in sleep.
Don't think about it.
I'll bet you're thinking about it.
No, I was thinking of my poor husband sleeping in jail tonight. Oh, Judy, I love him so much.
What's that noise?
Oh, I don't know. I kind of fell half asleep. For a moment, I thought it was something from a dream.
It's somewhere in the house.
Yes, on the floor above. Not directly over us. Probably a room overlooking the driveway.
Should we call Miss Van Gorder?
She'll hear it. How can she help but hear it? Oh, besides, we don't want her to think we're a couple of hysterical women.
Well, I'm about to become one.
Dear.
I had it for one night. Dale, you're not going out in that hall.
I want to know what's happening up there.
But Lieutenant Anderson said if we stayed behind our locked doors, we'd be safe.
Vic isn't safe locked up in that jail.
Oh, but...
Suppose that stolen money is in this house. Mark Fleming seemed to think it was. Maybe that's what somebody's looking for.
Heaven's sake, don't you hear that awful noise up there? Now, Lizzie, you've just got to stay awake. The house phone and the outside phone wires have been cut, and we can't get help.
Where's that policeman?
Oh, I don't know. Something must have happened to him. Now, go on, get on your robe.
Oh, Dale, please don't go up there.
I've got to. Think what it could mean to Vic. Now, you stay here.
Oh, no. If you go, I go.
You wait here. I'm going to see what it is.
Oh, please let me go with you.
Judy, will you warn me if anyone comes? I'll only be a moment. Now, wait.
Give her to me. I'll look after her. Poor baby.
Judy. The bat.
Yes, the bat. He caught her at the head of the stairs. We saw him rushing down the stairs as we came out of the room. I hurled that after him. I hit him, I believe. I'm going to cover this place from attic to basement, you said. Well, what were you covering when that poor child was murdered? Where were you?
I saw a man outside in the grounds. I went out there and hunted him. I heard him in among the trees, and so I followed the sound of him as far as the brook down near the back road. And then I lost him. I'd rather give my own life than have this happen to Judy. But I told you to stay in your rooms and lock your doors and stay there. What was she doing at the head of those stairs?
That was my fault.
They heard a strange noise. Heavy pounding in one of the rooms on the third floor. We all heard it.
I wanted to see what it was. Judy, I wish she wouldn't let me go out by myself. I made her stay on the balcony.
What about your new butler?
Oh, well, he's in his room, I suppose.
Oh, Mrs. Patterson.
Oh, yes.
Did you know what happened here?
No, sir, but I heard the screams. I went to call Warner. We have rooms on the same floor, but he wasn't in his room. His bed hasn't been slept in.
If Mrs. Patterson heard the screams, Warner could certainly hear them.
You're quite right, sir. I heard them.
Oh, you did? And where were you?
Outside in the grounds.
Miss Holland has been murdered.
No.
Oh, so you're surprised. Shocked. Well, I've seen better performances. I remember you now. Your name's not Warner. I've got a circular in my office with your picture on it. The Chicago police not so long ago were hunting for you in connection with the robbery.
You're right again, sir. And they found me and they tried me and I proved my innocence and I was acquitted.
That could have been a lucky break. Where were you when this child was killed?
I told you before, sir. Outside.
What were you doing there?
I was following you. I saw you leaving the house, and it seemed that you were hunting someone. I thought you might need some help. Oh, yes, sir. I followed your flashlight down through the trees. Then it disappeared. And then suddenly, as I was staring out into the darkness, I was struck by something on the back of the head. The next thing I knew, I was lying on the ground. I realized I'd been knocked out.
I wish you had been knocked out. But then we'd have found you with your mask still on your face. You were hit here in this house with this poker as you were rushing down those stairs after that child was killed.
Oh, no, sir. You can't pin this on me. I'm not the bat. I've never killed. I couldn't kill. I won't take the rap for this.
Another case for the county coroner. You see, the bat came back. Why did you come back, Doctor?
Well, I had an accident about a mile down the road. The right rear wheel of my car came off, and I plunged into the ditch. This was the nearest house, so I came here to call for help. I thought I'd find you around, Andy.
Physician, heal thyself. You must have been hit by something on the back of your head.
I told you I had an accident.
So you did, Doctor. So you did. I could be wrong. But maybe I'm not. We shall see.
All right, Dale, let's start a new chapter. For days, the murders held the headlines. Lieutenant Anderson grilled us and ransacked the house from top to bottom. Warner was not placed under arrest, but his every move was watched. At night, except for a detective on guard in the house, the police and the reporters left us alone. And on one of those nights, without telling Lizzie or anyone else, I pursued a secret investigation of my own. It was in an empty room on the 3rd floor where we kept our trunks and other things.
Put him up, Pat. It's a bright idea to kill me in my own lab and let people think that I'm the bat. But you had to kill me first. What was it to be, ambush? And clever as you are, you're not smart enough to do that. Nor were you smart enough to find the money, though you came quite close to it. But I know where it is. And when you're dead with that sign pinned on your chest, I'm going to collect it and live happily ever after. He destroyed himself. How true that will be. Well, goodbye, Bat. Here's a serum that will heal you whether you're rabid or not.
Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Miss Cornelia! Miss Cornelia! Where would she be going at this time of night? Well, land's sake. I never. Mr. Davenport. Mr. Davenport. Oh, a fine thing. The door unbolted, the chain off, and you asleep on the job. Wait till Lieutenant Anderson hears about this. Come on, wake up. What's the matter with you?
I don't know. My head hurts. My whole body's numb.
Here, take a sip of this. Try to snap out of it. I'll be back in a minute. Hurry, will you? It's Lizzie. I'm terribly worried. I can't find Miss Cornelia anywhere, and something's happened to the policeman. I don't know what. Get Warner. Bring him to the drawing room. Tell him we need him. Are you all right now?
Yeah, I'll be all right in a minute. I remember now. I took a drink of wine from that decanter there. Miss Van Gorder told me to help myself.
She wouldn't put nothing in it?
Well, somebody did. Somebody who knew I was on duty here.
Then it was somebody that got Miss Van Gorder. I can't find her anywhere. Upstairs, downstairs, or in the basement. I told the housekeeper to get Warner.
Lieutenant Anderson will want to know about this. Hello. Yeah, this is Davenport at the Oaks. We've got trouble here. Well, for one thing, I was drugged. Yeah. But I must have been knocked out because the maid tells me Miss Van Gorder is missing. Well, you better call Anderson and let him know. He's not at home. Well, where is he? Out on a case? What case? Dr. Wells. What else did they tell you about it?
Oh, hurry, will you? We've got to find Miss Cornelia.
Okay. Lieutenant Anderson is out on a case. Dr. Wells was found dead in a room next to his garage, murdered.
Dr. Wells?
There's something queer about the killing of Wells, but headquarters won't talk about it.
Lizzie, Warner isn't in his room. There's no sign of him anywhere.
And I was supposed to keep an eye on that guy.
Where's Miss Cornelia? That's what I want to know.
Wait a minute. Didn't you say that the chain and the bolt were off of the front door?
I certainly did.
Well, maybe Miss Van Gorder went outside.
Oh, she never would. We better look.
I can't breathe. There's no air.
Miss Cornelia.
Oh, Miss Van
Miss
Gorder.
Cornelia. Miss Cornelia.
Miss Van Gorder.
Look. There's a light in that room on the 3rd floor. Were you up there tonight?
Well, of course I was, but I turned the lights out before I came downstairs.
Then Miss Cornelia might have turned them on again. That's why we're going to look first. Come on.
Here we are, Miss Van Gorder. What do we do now?
Over the mantel, there are 5 panels. Strike it with your hand.
Which panel did you say, Miss Van Gorder?
Oh, I can't understand.
Miss Van Gorder, which panel? We couldn't hear you.
She said strike it. What difference does it make which panel? Strike them all. Look. Oh, it's all right now. It's all right, dear. Lizzie's here.
Feeling better?
Yes, much better.
We'll take you to your room.
Oh, no, you won't. I'm going to stay right here. I'm quite all right. Oh, how blessed it is to breathe without an effort. You know, no one knows how sweet the air can taste until someone shuts it off for a moment. That room is just like a box. When the mantelpiece closed, it seemed like all the air was drawn out of it. Look, there it goes again.
Let it close. I can open it from in here. There's a control panel behind this blueprint. Electric motor under the trap door here. Once the door is open, you can keep it that way. I believe that the fireplace in this other room opens the same way. And it does.
I tried to find this, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah, it's back at this blueprint here. Well, it's quite a setup. Too bad we can't open that safe in the same way. Take an expert to crack this box or a shot of nitro.
Well, maybe that's what the bat had in mind.
Could be. Seems he's on the prowl tonight.
Miss Van Gorder, Warner has disappeared.
And Dr. Wells has been murdered.
Dr. Wells?
Lieutenant Anderson's on that case right now.
Well, does he know what happened here tonight?
They got word to him. He'll be here any minute.
What's that noise? Miss Van Gorder, the garage is on fire.
Scott, look at that.
Lizzie, put that light out in the other room. Now, where are you going?
to report the fire.
Well, you just stay right here.
But Miss Van Gorder, the garage.
Well, let it burn. You watch the stair. Can't you see that fire was set to get us out of the house?
Out of the house? Were you talking about the...
Yes, I'm talking about the bat. Now that the lights are out, he'll think his trick has worked, and we've gone. He'll be here any minute.
Well, so will Lieutenant Anderson.
I hope so, but the bat will be here first. And he'll kill again if we're in his way. We've got to be as clever as he is.
You'll be safer downstairs. I'll take care of you.
Well, the others can go, but I'm going to stay right here.
All right, but get out of sight.
Let's face it, ladies, and get it over with. Others have seen my face before they died, but I'll have to deny you that pleasure. This would make a good scene for your book, Miss Van Gorder, but I'm afraid you'll never write it.
That is Warner. I could tell.
You misjudged me, Miss Ellen.
Warner!
I don't like being a murder suspect, Miss Van Gorder. I was headed for a plane, but halfway to the airport, I changed my mind and came back. I'm glad that I did.
Why, it's Lieutenant Anderson. Yes, it was Anderson. He discovered the secret of the hidden room and was waiting to get into it and open up the safe. We found the money in it, a little over $1 million in tens and twenties and hundreds. Good old Andy. With all his ill-gotten gains invested in bank stock. It's rather a clever way to hide stolen money. In the open, as it were, and so respectable. But don't try it. No matter how clever you are, you can't hide murder. Well, that's it, Dale. That's the end.